with any of you sons of bitches. Got anything else to say? Now's the fucking time!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Jake Brown Podcast. I am your host, Jake Brown. I appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. Obviously, I'm going to lead with some MotoGP, and I'm probably going to transition to some more MotoGP, and I may or may not end with some MotoGP. Actually, I'm not going to end with MotoGP. I have a theory, okay? And I'm going to obviously get to this in probably the second half of the show. I have a theory as to why motorcycle racing is not popular in the United States of America. I've got a theory, and I floated this theory out there a couple years ago and got a little backlash, but I think it's true, and I'm gonna discuss that a little later on in the show. But first, did you guys watch the French Grand Prix at Le Mans?
Special taste. There's Johann Zarco there now. Into turn 12 he goes. On course to be the first French rider in 71 years to win his home Grand Prix MotoGP. The fans are making incredible noise here. He's going to get a rapturous reception. The French fans are on their feet. He knows he's done it. It is C'est Magnifique. It is Vive la France from Johann Zarco. He wins the French Grand Prix for the first time in over 7 decades. The French fans celebrate a homegrown winner in the Premier class. What a noise. What an atmosphere here it is in Le Mans.
Okay, first of all, let me thank MotoGP for letting me steal your content, obviously. A new little twist that I've started doing on my shows. I don't know if legally I'm allowed to do that, but hey, whatever gets the word out in the old US of A about MotoGP, I'm going to do. Whether I'm allowed to do that or not, since I don't have their permission, what's the saying? It's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. I don't know. I mean, I guess if I get sued, then that's all going to go out the window. But that's where that footage is courtesy from. Look, Unreal Race, there was a little bit of, I guess, backlash as to the way from start to finish that whole race played out, just because it was a flag-to-flag race, because, of course, there's going to be some drama, some weather-related drama before the race starts. I mean, why wouldn't there be? And everyone's thinking, oh God, what's going to is Marc Marquez going to run off the grid again to switch bikes? Now, they changed a rule. They made a little rule change here that prevents anyone from leaving the grid, I don't know, within like 5 minutes or 3 minutes. Like once you hit that certain point in the old countdown to the lights going out, the bike that you have on the grid is the bike that you have on the grid. And if you leave the grid to then switch bikes, it's a double long lap penalty. So did that really stop anyone from trying to get sneaky? Not really. People were switching bikes on their sighting lap. They were coming back in on the warm-up lap. Like, if I feel like 3/4 of the grid all came in because they were all on slicks and they decided that they needed to be on reins. I think there was only 3 riders. Who was it? Zarco? Was it Luca Marini? No, Luca Marini, I think he didn't trust his instincts and I think he switched. Who was the other one? Was it Salvadori? I think Salvadori went reins, and I think Jack Miller went reins, and unfortunately he crashed out. But I think that was it, from if I remember correctly. I think that was it, of people who didn't swap bikes and then get a double long lap penalty once the race started. It was complete chaos. Now, is it the best racing? No, it's not the best racing. Is it dramatic and does it make for compelling TV and great entertainment? Yes, it does. It did all those things. Check, check, and check. There was drama at the start when Bastianini basically plowed into Pecco Bagnaia, causing him to check up and then plow into Zarco. Pecco crashed. Somehow Zarco managed to not crash and wasn't dead last. Coming out of turn 2 on the very first lap of the race. Unfortunately, Pecco's race ended much earlier than I think we all wanted to see. I was hoping to see him up there, fighting for a podium, but what is it? C'est la vie? I guess that's just the way it is this season for him. He's having a hell of a time, and I guess if he didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just really the summary of his 2025 season. The guy just can't catch a break this year, and also, who can't catch a break is fucking Joan Mir. That guy hasn't been able to catch a break for since Suzuki folded up shop. He has just been definitely on the wrong end of all the luck the last few seasons. I gotta be honest, I really feel bad for that guy. He's a fantastic rider. He's got speed, man. He's fast as hell. But again, if he didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. So another DNF for Mr. Mir. Hopefully he's able to bounce back at Silverstone next week. I hope so. I just hope so. I just feel bad for the guy. I've said it before. I mean, talk about two careers whose trajectory was completely altered by Suzuki terminating their race program. Mir, who won the MotoGP world title in 2020, and Alex Rins, who in 21, it seemed like was almost unbeatable toward the last third of the season. The guy was on fire. He was on fire, winning races, scoring podiums. He was on fire. And then all of a sudden, poof, Suzuki go bye-bye. That's it. It sucks. I feel bad for both of them. Their careers have never really been the same. Even though Rins won a race on the Honda, clearly that was kind of a one-off because he didn't really do much of anything else on the Honda. And he's done fuck all on the Yamaha when Jack Miller, who's been on that thing for 6 rounds, is probably, arguably, their second best rider right now for the Pramac team. Throw Jack on the factory team. They just swap those two out. I want to see Jack back on the on a factory team. The guy is unreal, and I was really sad that he crashed out on the last turn on whatever lap that was on, because he had good pace. He always does in the rain. Not saying he would have won, but hey, the guy causes chaos. You never know what he's going to do on a motorcycle, and he's just fun to watch. And if I get 25 laps of Jack Miller in mixed conditions, fuck yeah, sign me up all day. Sign me up for that. I'm watching it. Did the race have drama? Yes. Was it exciting? I don't know. Maybe not from a racing strategy standpoint, but just from pure anxiety of watching these guys run around on a track that at one point seemed to be drying and then just got wetter and wetter and wetter as the rain came. And then, you realize at one point after 3/4 of the grid took their double long lap penalties, in addition to then swapping bikes for a lot of guys, somehow Zarco ended up in front. The hometown Zarco. Well, I shouldn't say hometown. I don't know if he's from wherever, Le Mans. I don't know if he's from that area. I don't know what part of France he's from, but he's a Frenchman. They call him the Flying Frenchman. The Flying Frenchman, he's awesome. It was a good weekend for France in general because Quartararo, again, scored his second consecutive pole position, beating out Marc Marquez on his last lap of qualifying as time's expiring. Unreal qualifying session. Really, it was unbelievable what he's doing on this Yamaha now. And it doesn't mean that the Yamaha can go the full race distance at a competitive pace at every single track, the way or against the Ducatis. but it's getting closer. For him, it's getting closer. He's getting closer to where he was when he won the world championship. So that was cool to see for France, seeing Fabio Quartararo get on pole position, and then seeing, their other countryman, Zarco, win the race. It was more nerve-wracking, I think, than it was exciting. As a fan, I remember, I think when all the dust kind of settled, and it was determined that Zarco was out in front, and I think he had like an 8-second lead over Marquez, and there was still like 20, maybe 20 laps left. That's a lot of laps in the rain on a MotoGP bike, which those bikes are twitchy as hell anyway, and sometimes they just want to spit you off or throw you up in the air. A whole lot can go wrong in the rain over the course of 20 laps, especially when Marc Marquez is behind you, who, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, he's fast. Yeah, there's always a chance he's going to crash, but I didn't see him. I went into this race thinking he's not going to make the same mistake twice. He's not going to crash out of the lead. He's not going to do something crazy that's going to cost himself points. I really do believe that he's a more mature rider, even though he's fucking batshit crazy on a motorcycle. I really do believe that he is a more mature rider, and he wants to win the world title this year. He wants to, okay? In order to do that, he has to ride smart. And he did that. Like, he really did. And I think there were a lot of people who were probably skeptical, and I think maybe I had some of that skepticism creep into my brain, because that carrot is out there. An 8-second gap between you and first place in the rain, that's not that much of a gap. That's nothing in a rain race, especially when it's Marquez, who can just make up chunks of time lap after lap after lap if he decides to put his head down and really push. So Zarco knowing that he only had an 8-second gap, Marquez knowing that he had an 8-second gap, not to mention that Alex Marquez was right behind him, okay? That's a lot of pressure. Both of those brothers could, in any circumstance, they could have run down Zarco, passed him, and checked out. So for Zarco to have, one, the number of laps that are left in the rain, on the Honda, and then considering the two guys who were behind him, 1 and 2 in the championship at that point, that's a lot of anxiety. Even for those of us fans who are watching, I was like, oh my God, like anything can happen. Literally anything can fucking happen in this race. And to just say blindly that, yeah, Zarco's going to win this, hell no. It wasn't until he crossed the finish line. I'm not kidding you. Even him going through the last 2 turns, when the bike is basically completely upright, he's going at a snail's pace. I mean, he probably could have got off his bike and pushed it. He could have pushed his bike through those last 2 turns. That's about how fast he was going. It wasn't until he exited the final turn and he was straight up and down headed for the finish line, and I was like, okay, he's got this. That's about how long it took for me to kind of exhale just from the anxiety of watching Zarco do, the last 20 laps of that race. And it wasn't just because he was out in front. It wasn't just because that Marc Marquez was behind him. Zarco did something that you really don't see too often, I feel like. He continued to push the pace. He was pushing hard. And he took an 8-second lead over Marquez and extended it to a 20-second lead by the end. Now, I think some of that came down a little bit the last lap, but by and large, he maintained about an 18 to 20 second lead over Marquez for lap after lap after lap after lap. He continued to push and push. He probably pushed a lot harder than a lot of people would in that given circumstance. So cheers to him. I mean, yes, yep, that's money right there. That's money. He did something that most people are not going to do. From the lead, he continued to just take the fight to the field. And he's like, if you want to beat me, you're literally going to have to run my pace and catch me, and good luck. Because he was already on the ragged edge. But what was surprising, and maybe kudos to Honda for this, there were no like sketchy moments that he had. I don't remember any moments where maybe, he slid the front or, where he lost traction in the rear. Like there were I don't remember him, going wide through turns or anything like that, or clipping a curbing and maybe losing some grip. Like that Honda, that RC213V was planted in shit weather the entire race. The only issue Zarco had was when he got hit by Mir and got pushed off the track through the dirt on that first lap, turn 2. That was it. I think that was like the only issue that he had the entire race. So good on him. That's you talk about a big old fucking pair of French balls. That right there is the definition of big balls. Pushing that hard to run that pace on that bike, on that track, in front of those fans who are going absolutely nuts cheering for you. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. And I can't say enough good things. I love that Zarco is doing so well. Like I've always said, I'm a huge fan of all these guys. I don't want to see anyone like lose their seat. But if for some reason Honda decides to promote him to the factory team, it couldn't be more deserved. All right. It couldn't be more deserved. He has definitely earned a factory ride, I feel like. And really, like, what does Honda have to lose? He's doing probably a lot of the development, in race situations. They have Alicia Spargo, as one of their test riders. They have Taka Nakagami, who came back for this past round, fucking finished 6th. He hasn't done a MotoGP race since the end of last season. And here we are. They just did, he came back in round 6 of this season. And there was a lot of shit that happened and some people crashed and, there was a lot of stuff that went on. But he still finished 6th in a MotoGP race in mixed conditions. All right. Kudos to him for doing that. Our top 10, Zarco, Marc Marquez, Fermin Aldeguer rode out of his mind. He rode out of his mind. He podiumed in the sprint race. He podiumed in the long race for his first official MotoGP podium, finishing 3rd. Pedro Acosta in 4th. Maverick in 5th. That guy is he is Mr. Steady Eddie right now. He's riding so good. Like I said, Nakagami in 6th. Raul Fernandez, 7th. My boy, DG in 8th. How about Aprilia's test rider, Lorenzo Salvadori in 9th? Kudos to him. I mean, talk about having... Okay, let me finish this. Ayagura, my boy, in 10th. Salvadori has been in the GP paddock off and on as a test rider / racer for years. How long has he been? For years. Him and Michel Pirro, who is Ducati's test rider, talk about having 2 of the absolute coolest jobs ever. You get to test ride, all right? You get to test ride these MotoGP bikes at all their official tests. You get paid, not as much as, the guys who are racing for the factory teams, but these factories are paying you to test ride these bikes. Plus, you're the fill-in rider for injuries, okay? For either the satellite teams or for the factory team. And on top of that, if the satellite teams and factory teams are at full strength, you still get a certain number of wildcard rounds that you get to go race. Like, that's fucking awesome. And no one expects you to do good. So you have zero of the pressure of the full-time racers. You're probably making pretty good fucking money doing this. And you get to ride these unbelievable motorcycles, day after day after day at all the tests and all that stuff. Like, Salvadori's been around for what feels like a really long time. And let's not act like Michel Pirro and Lorenzo Salvadori are not good riders. Like, these dudes are obviously world-class riders because they're the ones who are behind the scenes developing, the Aprilia and the Ducati, obviously in conjunction with the racers and the other test riders. But like, these guys are doing the grunt work. What a cool gig. I think that is such a cool gig. Like, it really is a cool job. And for him to score points, to get a top 10 finish, like, I think that's absolutely awesome for him. And I'm sure he was on cloud fucking 9, leaving that round, just like, man, I don't know what else I could have did, like, that was good stuff. And based on times, he was only a second in front of Agura, so he was probably battling. He was probably having a fucking blast out there. How could he not be having an absolute blast out there? So that wraps up, the top 10. Obviously, there are a lot of crashes. I felt bad for Pecco again. He's just having a hell of a time, not only with the GP25, but let's not act like his confidence hasn't taken a little bit of a ding, with the GOAT moving into the garage next door. That has to be tough, but the dude is pure class, and a lot of people like to bag on him and say that he whines a lot. Like, whatever. Like, just shut the fuck up. The guy's, he's always pleasant, it appears. And again, I'm saying this as not the media. I'm saying this as an observer on the outside from a fan's perspective. He always seems gracious, win, lose, or draw, or otherwise. The interviews he does, he's very candid. He's got a great little YouTube documentary series out. I don't remember the name. Actually, I've only caught part of one of the episodes, and I've been meaning to go back and watch. But I watched a few-minute clip of one. It's really well put together, like from a production standpoint. Whoever he contracted as a production team to do that, those dudes should put together a fucking documentary series about MotoGP in general. Unlike that shit that Amazon did a few years ago. God, that was awful. That was absolutely awful. That was such a fucking embarrassment. Especially after watching the F1, the Drive to Survive that Netflix did. I just wish Netflix would do one. And I've heard, it's rumored that they are doing one for MotoGP, and it's the same production team that did Drive to Survive. But again, it's rumors. Like, I feel like, every time I see some sort of post or some sort of, little bullshit article, there's never any credible sources that are saying one way or the other. It's just everybody always speculating. So, until Netflix actually says something, or like a legit production company comes out and says, yeah, we're doing this, or if the journalists who are on the ground are confirming that there are camera crews like in the paddock, and obviously there are a lot of camera crews from media that are there, but if there's a different set of camera crew, if there's a whole different group of production people who are in the paddock, people are going to notice, and people are going to talk, and people are going to know that that's the one, that's the Netflix documentary. Then they're getting their content, and it doesn't seem like we've heard anything like that so far. No one is talking about that. So my fingers are crossed. Fingers are crossed, because I think that would be awesome. Especially since Formula One is boring as hell. It's 50 laps of those fuckers parading around in a straight line, and but they didn't sell the racing, like that's not what Drive to Survive was about. Drive to Survive was about the personalities of the drivers, the behind the scenes of the crew and the crew chiefs. It's about traveling around the world to these cool cities and these cool tracks and stuff like that. And they had to do it that way because the racing itself, like at times it's good, but overall it's like, Jesus Christ, like, is this over yet? There's just nothing going on. So they did what any good production company would do. They told stories. And the drivers are the stories. And the same, it can be true for these guys, for these MotoGP pilots, these motorcycle racers. Tell these guys' stories, go behind the scenes, go to the ranch, with Rossi and all these VR46 guys, show Marquez and Alex and all their training and all that shit. It's compelling entertainment. It will suck you in. I promise you, it'll suck you in. And then it's going to make you want to watch the races because now you're identifying with these guys on a human level, And the byproduct of that is I want to see these guys at work. Show me what they're doing at work. And that's the racing. Get to know them on a personal level. Now show me what they're doing at work, And God, if they can do that and they pull it off, like this sport is just it's gonna blow up. There's no reason it can't blow up, or at least become extremely popular from a streaming standpoint, like Formula One did. And Formula One is obviously it's huge worldwide, but it's still it's a niche sport in the U.S. It's popular when it's here. And I would say it's more popular when it's in Austin at COTA, and it's less popular when it's in Vegas because everybody there hates it. And people are pissed off that they shut down, half the fucking downtown area there, and they make it inaccessible for people to watch, like they're barricading and blocking and screening out. So people can't just sit and watch. It's like if you're trying to sell your sport, like fuck it, maybe you sacrifice a little bit of revenue for eyeballs. Why don't you do that? Okay. Why don't you do that? Why don't you try that? We're a big market here. Okay. Hold that thought for a second. I do want to do, the rider standings now after the 6 rounds. Marquez increased his lead over Alex because, Alex, all you had to do was just keep in the race, man. He crashed out. He crashed twice, remounted, was still running in the top 10, so he still would have got some good points. Then he crashed for a second time, and that was it. He DNF'd. So Marquez increased, or actually, I think he was not leading, or maybe he was leading by a point. I don't know, whatever. He scores 20. Poor Alex scored 0. Marc Marquez now has a 22-point lead over Alex and a 51-point lead over Bagnaia, who also DNF'd and scored 0 points. So your top 5, the 2 Marquez brothers, Bagnaia, Morbidelli, and DG with 97 points. No, not 97, with 74 points. He's 97 points back. And apparently, Marc Marquez has now scored, in the sprint race era, the most ever points. He's at 171. No one has ever scored that many points through the first 6 rounds, ever. And he's still undefeated in the sprint races. So, and let's not forget, he's left a lot of points. He has a DNF, and then he finished 8th in a couple weeks ago. So he's left some points. He's left almost a full race worth of points on the track just from crashes. So he could easily have a lot more than that. If he continues riding smart like he did this past round, he's going to be unbeatable. And it's not even his qualifying pace that's so impressive, which is impressive. Nobody can match his race pace. And it's not even close. His race pace is so much faster than everybody else. It doesn't matter where he qualifies at. He's going to qualify on the front row, barring some sort of either stupid mistake that he makes from trying to break a lap record or from some sort of technical issue with the bike. He's going to qualify on the front row probably every single round this year. And his race pace is so superior. Unless he gets in his own way or there's a technical issue which causes a DNF, he's going to win. He just is. He just is. And I think this was an exception to the rule, what Zarco did. Zarco, between the crowd and, being in his home country and just, everything with the weather, and Marquez knowing that, him securing 20 points was better than trying to win and probably crashing and scoring 0. It was the perfect storm for Zarco to win. And, he's sitting in 6th place right now. He's only 99 points back. So, he's got a chance to move up. He's only 13 points back of being in the top 4. Good on him. Like, I hope he continues to have good results, and I hope he continues to move up. But, we'll see. It's a long season. It's a very, very long season. All right. Shifting gears. Like I started out talking about, why isn't motorcycle racing, and I want to be specific. Why isn't road racing in the United States more popular? And and we can include Moto America in that as well. That's our national series here. But especially MotoGP, and for years and years and years, World Superbike used to come here a couple times, actually. They'd go to Laguna, and they'd go out to Miller Motorsports Park out in Salt Lake City. Why aren't those series, specifically the World Series, okay, MotoGP and World Superbike, why aren't they more popular? Well, I have a theory, okay? Something that is, I want to say, obviously unique to what it is that we prefer as lazy Americans. All right? Now, hear me out here. There's something that all of our sports that we enjoy, that we consume, have in common. So what are our big sports? All right? So in the U.S., we have the big 4, okay? We have the big 4. We got the NHL, National Hockey League, right? And these are in almost no particular order, although they kind of are in reverse. We have Major League Baseball, the MLB. We have the NBA, the National Basketball Association. And we have the undisputed King of Kings, heavyweight champion sport in this country. And it's really not even close. The National Football League, the NFL. And to say that the NFL is the most popular sport in this country, it's an understatement, and it almost does a disservice. It almost does a disservice to TV shows in general, because the NFL isn't just the most popular sport in this country. It is the highest rated TV program on every channel that it's aired during the season. Let that sink in. The NFL is aired through Disney, okay? So it's on ESPN, it's on ABC, all right? It's on CBS, it's on Big Fox, it's on, did I say NBC? And it's on Prime Video. They have Thursday night games, and it's on the NFL Network. On every single one of those networks, when the NFL airs a game, it is that network's highest rated show every single time. So it's not just the highest rated sport in this country. It's the highest rated television program on that station. Like, that's insanely crazy. That's why there's such bidding wars for what program will get what game. Typically, we have the NFC that's tied to Fox, and we have the AFC that's tied to CBS, and NBC gets the night game, and ESPN gets the Monday night game. So really ABC, or Disney owns, ESPN. So, Disney's getting, Monday Night Football, and then Prime, and then the NFL Network kind of go back and forth between the Thursday night games. And obviously the NFL owns their content, so they're just pocketing all that money from, the various sponsors. But to have just to think that whatever network you are, whatever shows you put out there, none of them are going to get the ratings that the NFL gets for a single 3-hour game. It's unreal. Okay. So those are our big 4 sports. So now I want you to think in the back of your head, what do all those sports have in common? Okay. Now, if we were to go to probably a tier 2, All right, maybe a tier 2 level. I would put the UFC in there. And some would maybe argue that the Big Four is maybe the Big Five with the UFC, with what they've done the last 20 years. My pushback on that is I think they have too many pay-per-views and not enough free quality events. You know, not enough having like their big A-list fights just free for the public to consume. You know, like the NFL is always going to show the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, they're one of their big money teams. They're always going to show the Dallas Cowboys. You know, the Cowboys are one of the biggest brands in all of sports, period, anywhere in the world. You know, as fans of the NFL, we don't have to pay to watch them on TV. We just get to watch them on TV. And I think that's the only issue with maybe the UFC is that if I want to watch their heavy hitters, if I want to watch Jon Jones fight, okay, when Jon Jones fights next, if he fights next, I don't get to just turn on NBC and watch that. I don't get to just turn on ESPN and watch that. I got to pay for that. I got to subscribe to ESPN Plus, and then I got to pay for the pay-per-view to watch Jon Jones or Oliveira or, you know, Holloway or whoever. You know, I got to pay to watch them fight. All right? So that's why I have them in a tier 2. Other sports in the tier 2, NASCAR. All right? And I think I would put the PGA in there as well, pro golf. I think nobody like hates golf, but it is really time consuming and long to sit down and watch a full round of golf. And they're going to get ratings, yes, but unless you have a Tiger Woods on Sunday at Augusta, you're not going to pull the kinds of ratings that are going to have you sniffing what the NFL can do. Do I love golf? Yeah, I fucking love golf. And I've always been able to sit and watch golf. And but I'm weird. Okay, I'm a knuckle dragon caveman, and I'm a little mentally off. And for me, sitting down on maybe a sunny day, if I have a couple hours to kill, and watching some golf, like, I don't know, I've always enjoyed that. Even when I was a teenager, I think playing golf helps that too. If you don't play the sport that you're watching, sometimes you just don't have a lot of interest in it. So, you know, I started playing golf when I was a teenager, when I was probably a freshman in high school. And I'm not saying I'm good. I'm terrible. Anyone who's golfed with me knows I'm absolutely horrendous at golf. But it's still a fun game to play. Therefore, it's relatable to watch. So I have kind of those. So you can maybe put the ATP in there, the pro tennis. You know, like I like to watch, like, you know, I like watching Wimbledon, and like the US Open is cool. The French Open is cool. The Aussie Open, God, it's on at such a weird time. It's like, who the fuck is awake at 3, 4, or 5 in the morning to watch tennis? Like, I'm not doing that. But when I was growing up, when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, tennis was huge in this country. They got big ratings in the US. You know, Andre Agassi and you know, Pete Sampras and, you know, Steffi Graf and Monica Seles and Capriati. Those were some huge names in tennis. And they were fucking rock stars. Those guys, they all traveled around the world, and they were absolute rock stars. And you even carry that into the Williams sisters at the beginnings of their career. Yeah, I mean, tennis isn't as popular as it used to be. But I feel like it's still pretty popular. But again, take those sports, and I think, you know, I threw in some kind of and ones. The MLS in this country, yeah, it's got a good following, but, you know, they're kind of tribal. The MLS is kind of tribal. It's not mainstream by any means. It's popular in regions. But if the Seahawks were playing on a random Tuesday night in Seattle, they're selling out whatever the field is. Is it Quest Field now? CenturyLink? Whatever the fuck it's called. They're selling their stadium out. If the Sounders are playing on some random Tuesday night, I mean, I guess it maybe depends on who they're playing. They're probably not going to sell out. They'll get a lot of people. Seattle is very, very supportive of the Sounders, but not in the way that Seattle is of the Seahawks. It's very different. Okay? It's very, very different. All right? So, yeah, like soccer's popular, but, you know, I'm not putting them in, obviously, tier 1 or tier 2. And then I put Supercross out there because, you know, a lot like, you know, Supercross is just NASCAR on two wheels. Let's be honest. So all those sports, what is something that they all have in common? What do we think? Good personalities? Yeah, they all got that. You know, they all have their fair share of problems. You know, none of them are perfect. I'll give them that. They're all on TV. Yeah, I'll give you that too. But now I'm kind of talking in person. You know, if I go to an NHL game, if I go to, and the PGA is a little weird, and I'll explain. Actually, let me circle because I will explain that one. So kind of let's shelf the PGA for a second, but I will explain why I put them in here with this. One thing that all these sports have in common, and I think it's mainly for us lazy, fat fucking Americans, is we want all of our sports entertainment right in front of our faces. We want to see all the action that is taking place confined to a stadium where we can sit and where we can just watch everything unfold at any given point in the entire event live. And what does MotoGP do? What does Formula One do? To a certain extent, what does IndyCar do? Actually, they do. IndyCar is the exact same way. You hear them coming. They exit a turn. They fly by you at 200 miles an hour, and then they're gone. And then you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes until they come around again. And if you're sitting somewhere where maybe you don't have some sort of Jumbotron screen, or, you know, you're not maybe listening to the action like to a live broadcast, you know, like through radio broadcast, or maybe you're not streaming it on your phone, you don't know what the fuck is going on anywhere on the track, and poof, we have no attention span in this country. We have none. If you expect Americans to sit and focus on zero action in front of their face for 90 seconds, you've now lost your entire audience. You have. And I think that's why NASCAR is even successful, because you can watch the entire race, even though they're go fast, turn left. Hey, they're in front of you the whole time. And you can see virtually, you know, I don't know, like unless they kind of get behind some of the RVs and stuff that are in the infield, you see the entire NASCAR race. Supercross, you see the entire main event. You see all of it. There's nothing that you're going to miss. You want to watch your favorite rider the entire time? You can sit there and you can watch your favorite rider. I can watch Malcolm Stewart the entire time he's doing a 20-minute main. And I'm not going to miss one thing. I don't need a split screen. I don't have some director cutting away, nothing like that. I can just sit and I can watch my guy the entire time. The NFL, the action is right in front of your face. And I think that is one problem and there's two things, and I have two theories on this with regards solely to motorcycle racing. It's unique to motorcycle racing. If the action isn't going to be right in front of our face, you're going to have a hard time capturing and holding the American attention span. You just are. We're so spoiled here with our sports that the second the action goes by, we are going to lose interest within 10 seconds. And now you space that out, you know, over the course of 45 to 50 minutes in a MotoGP race. I mean, yeah, like you're going to get the diehard fans that show up, but you're never going to get the casuals. You're never going to introduce the casuals and get them to stay because they're just going to get bored and they're going to find something else to do, or they'll go, yeah, that was cool. That was awesome. Yeah, that was really cool. Like, it's so loud when they go by, and even like in the first maybe 4 to 5 laps when the field is more bunched up going by, like, okay, like, yeah, like that's cool. But then, you hit laps 10 and laps 15 and then laps 20 and laps 25, and now there's a 60, 70, 80 second gap and everyone's spread out, and now you're just watching riders ride by. Oh, there goes one guy that just rode by alone. Oh, here comes someone else riding by alone. Oh, here comes someone else going by, and it's the same thing. You can't see what's going on anywhere else. Okay. Now, I will say where golf is, yes, golf is similar, and a lot of these, at these major events, they have grandstand seating where you can sit there and, you watch one hole. Okay. I get that. I understand that. The difference with golf is, and I've been to one LPGA, one of their majors they held in Palm Springs. I don't know when it was. It was 2002, I think, somewhere in there, 2003. And me and one of my buddies, we got free tickets. So we went and we followed, if you remember Annika Sorenstam, we followed her around for 18 holes, along with about 15 to 20,000 other people. But it was cool as hell. It was really cool. And we could walk the course and we could follow. And as long as you're quiet and, not acting like a drunk idiot, like, you can follow the action the entire time. And we watched, I don't think we followed her for all 18 holes. I think Michelle Wie was also playing. I think she was a teenager then. And that was back when she was trying to qualify for the men's tour, like for some of the majors. But she was still playing in the LPGA at the time, or she had just started out there. So she had a pretty huge crowd too. So we kind of split time and we followed some around, and it was cool. But you're able to see the action right in front of your face as long as you want to walk with them and follow them. You can do that. So that's kind of the only exception to all this. Everything that I just listed, Supercross, pro tennis, soccer, NASCAR, UFC, PGA, the big four, they're all right in front of our stupid fat fucking faces that we're shoving nachos into our mouths and drinking beers and, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, yeah. That's one of the main reasons that I feel like MotoGP and Formula One are never really going to take off in this country, is we want the action right in front of our faces. And the second we lose the action, we lose interest. And when we lose interest, we're gone. We've moved on to something else. We've moved on to 5 other things in that 90 seconds that it's going to take for those motorcycles to come back around the track again. And it's unfortunate, but I just think that that's one of the big hurdles that MotoGP has with getting this sport mainstreamed in this country. And it is unique to this country. Now, I think the other hurdle that they have is that unlike Europe, unlike the overwhelming majority of Asia, unlike South America, we don't view motorcycles the same way that we view automobiles, the same way that we view cars. We view motorcycles as toys, as recreational equipment, and most people in this country don't really take them seriously. Okay? If you go to Europe, they are obsessed with motorcycles, scooters too, because they're not just a piece of recreational equipment. They're not just a toy, in Asia. They are a very, very dependable piece of transportation. there, and they view them different. It's almost like they view their motorcycles and their scooters with a different level of respect, than we do here. The way that we view our cars and our trucks in this country is the way that most other countries, especially countries where MotoGP and World Superbike are popular, the way we view our cars and trucks is the way that they view their motorcycles. And they're very brand loyal, and they are ride or die for their Ducatis or for their Aprilias or for their Suzukis or Kawasaki's, you name it. Okay? The way we are, ride or die with our Fords or with our Chevys or with, whatever, like you name it. I think that on some level that also plays a role. We just don't take motorcycles serious here. We never really have, even at maybe the height of the AMA racing. You could argue maybe it was in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. Maybe even at the height of the AMA, it was still nothing compared to what the NFL was, or even the NBA or pro baseball or even hockey. It was nothing, or NASCAR for that matter. It was a glitch on the radar. Do I think it's possible to get MotoGP mainstreamed in this country? Look, I'm not going to say that nothing's impossible, but I think it's going to take a serious investment in marketing. And if the sale with Liberty goes through in MotoGP, now will get owned by an American company. Maybe they dump money into the marketing. And I think having, a good quality documentary series, a reoccurring one, very, very similar to the one like F1 had, the Drive to Survive, I think that could help bridge that gap and start to trickle fans in. Look, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. I think, and people may have their opinions on how quickly something like that could happen, or even whether it can happen. I'm optimistic. I like to think that it can happen, but I'm also pretty realistic, and I don't think it ever will. I just know how my fellow countrymen are with regards to their sports, and I know what we like here. We like violence. We like confrontation. Like we like a story. We like a good story. Someone overcoming adversity and all that fucking bullshit. But ultimately, the reason the NFL is king and will continue to be king and has been king for a long time, it gives us the stories, it gives us the action, it gives us the violence, and it's quick enough and it moves just fast enough that it will hold our attention. If it went any slower, it would still be the most popular sport. But, I think you got to be careful, and I think a lot of the replays they do really slow the game down. Have you heard that stat that like over the course of an actual 60-minute game, that lasts like 3.5 hours, there's only something like, I don't know, what was the stat? Like seven actual minutes of football that's played. The rest is just people talking about football or them being in a huddle, or TV timeouts. So, you figure each play only lasts like 4 to 6 to 7 seconds. Like that's it. So over the course of an entire game, you're getting like 5 minutes of actual football. That's it. It's not very much. But it's all the drama that's around it. It's the compelling stories that surround the game, And plus, we all played it growing up, or a lot of us played it growing up, and you just kind of stick with it for whatever reason. If I had kids, I would not want them to play football. I definitely would not. I would push them toward golf in a heartbeat. Go play golf and save your brain cells. So anyway, those are my theories. Look, people are going to think that they're probably fucking bullshit. I don't know. I don't really care. If you got a hypothesis as to why MotoGP isn't as popular in this country, I'd love to hear it. At Jake Brown Pod on Instagram and on X/Twitter. Feel free to shoot me a DM. I'm curious. What do you think? Maybe I'll put a poll out. Maybe I'll put out some sort of poll on my social media about what people think as to this topic. I don't know. Hope everyone's having a great week. Sun's out, guns out. I have some tentative boxing news that I'm going to share on my next episode. I might do another episode later this week. I got a new microphone. Man, I love this mic. I finally decided to not be such a cheap fuck, and I spent a decent amount of money on a good mic. Dude, it makes all the difference in the world. I'm telling you. Don't be like me. Don't spend a bunch of money on shit products only to find out you should have spent a lot of money on one product that's extreme quality. Just spend a lot of money one time instead of a lot of money multiple times. So yeah, that's old Uncle Jake's advice. Don't be a cheap fuck. All right. Love you all. Take care. Talk to you when I talk to you.